Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Genesis BCW's Moving People podcast. It's where we talk about the world of integrated communications. Today's episode will focus on an industry that's been among the hardest hit by the pandemic. In fact, with lockdowns in place, this business literally could not get off the ground for some time. So, how has the aviation industry used communications strategically throughout the lockdown? And what do all the changes mean for the future of the business? We've got a great guest today to discuss those questions. It's C Leekha. She's the head of corporate communications at IndiGo. Welcome, Leekha, and thank you for joining us on episode 2 of the Moving People podcast.
Thanks, Pierre. It's a pleasure.
Great. So, Leekha, I actually wanted to start with your background. You're a veteran of the comms game. And if I'm not wrong, if you could take us back to the very start, because I think your first job did have a bit of a connect to the aviation industry.
That's right, Pierre. So I did sort of get onto the career bandwagon with Rolls-Royce. And Rolls-Royce, this is the engineering side of things. So they were into aero engines. So I got into the vertical at that time. My journey at IndiGo began in January 2019. And really, there was just one word to describe it, it would be it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride, really. Think about myself, I classify myself as an integrated brand building and corporate communications professional. Been in the industry for almost 23 years now and have worked across some really large and well-known brands, including Rolls-Royce, GE, another aero engine manufacturer whom I've had the pleasure of working with, Avaya, and Nokia, to name a few.
I know we have limited time, so I actually want to get straight into the big meaty subject, the elephant in the room as far as the aviation industry is concerned, and that's COVID. What's changed for the industry and also what's not changed?
Yeah, so COVID has largely been classified or cliched by now, is that it's a new normal, except that according to us, there's nothing really normal about it at all. It really has changed the way we do business. It has also changed the way that we approach business overall. So if I was to come to aviation specifically, I think the mantra that we've had to really look at is unlearn, learn, and adapt. Aviation actually stopped moving last year for almost 2 months. And that was a time when this hit us like a jolt. It had come out as blue, it hit us like
Yeah.
jolt, and suddenly business was nowhere. I think what at IndiGo helped us is our quick thinking on the feet. So we did not take that period lying down or sort of, just wondering what's next, but actually started planning very, very quickly for when the business really opens up. What is it that we want to do? What is it as IndiGo we want to come out from this as, we could have come out as an airline which had
Mhm.
lost its bearings in very many ways, or as an airline which would be sort of thinking on its feet, coming out fitter, better, stronger, and more importantly, addressing the needs of the consumer. When we started thinking on those lines, is when we actually opened up, or when the economy actually opened up in May of 2020. There are a whole host of initiatives that we launched.
I actually want to come to one of them because one of the interesting things that Indigo did was this campaign called the Lean Clean Flying Machine.
Yes.
It's a very interesting campaign, and it has its roots in the kind of problems you discussed a few seconds ago. Tell us how that campaign was born, and what about it has made it win all these awards.
So that campaign is very close to our hearts there. Last year, everything shut down. And then the biggest thing about, or the biggest prevention for Corona was, maintaining distance, masking up, hygiene. So it was all about hygiene, hygiene, hygiene. And of course, when flying opens up, how to win back people's trust. Everyone was scared. And we were aware that when things open up, people are not going to immediately jump on the bandwagon and start, flying. So we had to really win their trust. So I think we took these two parameters and started looking at every aspect of our business where we needed to apply this. For example, what is it that we needed to do at the operational level to ensure that the customers trust us? And by operations, I mean starting where the customer steps into the airport right till the time he picks up his bags and walks out of the airport. We really looked at each of those touch points and started building in this whole concept of a clean flying machine. And at the back end, when we were thinking about it this way, we really thought of this whole lean, clean flying machine actually. And the idea was to offer the customer a product, a service that was completely keeping in mind the needs of the time, and at the same time ensuring that they feel safe and with us and trust us and continue to believe in IndiGo being an on-time, reliable, hassle-free, customer-oriented airline.
I actually wanted to talk about customer expectations a little bit because, one of the things customers don't realize specifically about aviation is how important safety is. To the point that if your pilots haven't been flying for a certain period of time, and we know that that was the case last year, certainly, they have to
Yeah.
do recertifying and they have to go through the simulators again, retrain, practice everything all over again. What are they telling you now, 17 months since the lockdowns first started, about their current expectations on safety, on cleanliness, or maybe even other changes?
While it started when customers came back to flying, and it was a slow climb last year. So, after the first wave, our climb was actually very gradual. It started with the capacity opening up only 25%, then on to 35, 40, 45. And August of last year, we were sitting at about 60%. And finally, I would say around December, January is when flying really touched, or Feb, which was actually one of our best months, so touched 80% capacity. So people were actually beginning to trust coming back to traveling, whether be it for leisure. We did a couple of customer surveys as well, and they told us that people initially it was all pent up demand. Later on, it became about people really wanting to move. So all of that was taking on. And while last year it was more to do with safety, hygiene, etc., this time, when the wave hit us, after the second wave, we've seen a steep uptake in flying. So it was a steep downfall with the second wave hitting us again like a punch in our face. But it was a steep climb for the cases and numbers around. Once we've kind of ebbed out of the second wave, this time around, the customers have a pent up demand not for traveling back to their home locations or being stranded in one city, moving to another, but more to do with about pent up travel. So right now, I think the customers have come to a point where they say safety and hygiene are a given. What is it in
Yeah.
terms of connectivity? So right now, what we are facing, we're sitting at about, I would say, 60% capacity right now.
Mhm.
But the ask is connectivity. Every day, every other day, we are hearing from customers, when are these flights starting back? That's become one of the biggest asks. The other one is also about customers now, sort of wanting more flights. So one is, of course, we've always done point-to-point connectivity. So more ask for stations, but also more flights. So, for example, Delhi to Srinagar, we were currently just doing maybe, out of the 10 we did initially, we were doing 4 flights, but the demand for customers has really, really come up. So they're looking at,
Yeah.
kind of getting more options for flying as well. One is connectivity and getting more options for flying.
Of course. And are you seeing more demand for leisure travel, or is that still somewhere a little distant, or is it more business destinations?
Absolutely leisure travel. A lot of demand for people wanting to just get out and about, really. Um,
Kashmir and Goa and Kerala and places like
yes.
that.
And
Yeah.
even with Maldives now opening up, Malay is suddenly
Mhm.
back on the agenda. So, in terms of at least bubble flights and people who can really make it there,
Yeah.
etc. So, yes, it is more of leisure this time compared to last year when it was first about pent up demand for people who were stuck in different locations, people wanting to go back home. With all this work from home scenario, people were wanting to go back to their hometowns and operate from there. So, there was a lot of pent up demand after the first wave. So, that was necessary demand or essential travel. Now it's leisure travel and it's taking on.
To that point about more places opening up and more international destinations opening up as bubble flights progress, it actually makes the job of communications harder to customers because there are so many different rules. There are so many different regulations that different countries have, whether it's about pre-flight COVID safety checks, post-flight arrival checks. How are you as an airline keeping on top of the changing rules, the changing schedules, and making sure customers get that information on time?
Right. So on that, Pierre, I would say that it is all been about this rapid growth of digitization and kind of internally imbibing that and ensuring that we're on top of it. So, like I said, during these low periods or periods of no business, we were actually sort of innovating ourselves to become more, accessible to people. And the only way of doing that was through digitalization, which is what we invested in the last 17 months. Today, if you enter the airport, and if you're really not even carrying a bag and you're going on a train trip, you just have a contactless travel. You print your
Yeah.
boarding pass, print your bag tags if you're carrying a check-in bag or whatever, and you just kind of zip past the whole, protocols right to
Yeah.
the security area, get past
Everything is
that, and
scanned these days.
everything is completely scanned and ready and all of that. So I think it is digitalization which has helped us achieve that. And that has percolated through all the areas. So when you talk about information, and I heard this very recently on one of the social media portals where a person asked, what is happening? What are the protocols from somebody who's flying from, let's say, Ranchi to Mumbai? Do I need an RT-PCR? And a response by
Yeah.
another customer, and to me, that would be a proof of pudding, is he said, just get to the IndiGo website, you'll get all the updated details there, which is a testament to the fact that we've been providing reliable information to our customers, ensuring that it is updated, the information across our portals, across
Yeah.
our website. Also, we make sure that the customer is immediately informed when some changes happen. So we've really, really kept abreast with what's happening in the industry across the environment as far as rules and guidelines go. What is the ministry saying? What are the authorities wanting? And ensuring that our customers are informed through all available touch points. That's been the way to go.
That actually leads me to my next question, because something that the Coven app recently allowed is to add your passport to your vaccination details.
Yeah.
And I know that that's probably just the first step, because a lot of countries are now talking about vaccine passports and green passports and so on.
Yeah.
What do we see in terms of regulations for India? How are we preparing for this? And especially on the privacy concern side, because there are some consumers who don't want to talk about their COVID status.
So on that, there are two aspects that we're looking at as from IndiGo. One is working with the authorities and the government to ensure that there is a smooth way for people to travel once the international borders open up and we feel safe to do so. So that is, we're working with the regulator and DGCA and the government authorities to ensure that we have some sort of protocols, uniform guidelines. The other end, and you'd be, this is not something we've let out yet, but very soon this is coming up in the news, is IndiGo is the first airline which has signed up for the IATA trials of a vaccine passport, which means there is actually a global body called IATA, which is working on these guidelines to ensure that these barriers or the borders do not become restrictive for people to travel from one country to another. A lot of big airlines have signed up on this across the world, across the globe. And in India, we are the first airline who has signed up for these trials, which means as and when we are allowed to fly across international borders,
Mhm.
we should be able to have a set of global guidelines that we plan to follow and ensure that our customers travel hassle-free from one point to another. So that's one.
Mhm.
In terms of privacy that you referred to, I think again that's a feedback that has gone back to the regulators and government from the various airlines and the airline bodies, saying that once we are putting the customers are feeding in their passport numbers, we need to ensure that data is secure. I think that's been an ask all across. It's something that all companies are sort of looking at strengthening at their own end.
No, absolutely. And in case you missed it, there was breaking news right there. So Lika, we'll make sure that that headline is talked about a little bit about Indigo pioneering that initiative here in India for Indian Airlines. Do you see the air industry recovering over the next 2 to 3 years to the levels that it was pre-pandemic, or how long do you think that might take, and how are you preparing for that bit?
Yes, we do definitely see the industry sort of coming out of this. With the vaccination that is going around across the globe. Once we are through with it in different countries, we do see people traveling. Like I said, just around this time itself, there is, after the second wave, a steep demand that's already coming in for travel. There is, this whole projection of a third wave, but as IndiGo, we see that to be pretty much flat out, given the fact that we have people who are getting vaccinated and traveling. So we're hoping that's going to be a flat wave and it's not going to affect travel drastically like it has previously. We are looking at probably 2023 as the year when we kind of come out of this in a way and hit pre-COVID levels. From a business projection, from a business outlook perspective, that's what we see. The planning is on with that projection in mind. But having said that, the things that have changed, there is never going to be going back to the previous, as we say. So while this is referred to, like I say, a new normal, really it isn't. It is the way things are going to be. That's something we recognize. We've kept a very liquid base
Yeah,
throughout this period, thanks to our strong financials prior to
yeah.
COVID, and we plan to maintain that. So there is a certain threshold level of liquidity that, as an airline, we have decided we would like to keep at all times to ensure that, God forbid, if tomorrow there is another wave or another, some similar issue, we are well prepared to tackle that. And keeping all that aside, we have our growth plans in place. So yes, business
Yeah.
looks positive in the coming future for sure.
And I think you've seen some of the big airlines do precisely what you're saying. The big global airlines, I think was it American Airlines that ordered a record number of new aircraft. The bit you
Yes.
mentioned about liquidity, also so important, especially because we've seen some airlines go under in the past 15, 16 months. I wanted to shift away from the business conversation and do something a little fun for the last bit, which is our rapid fire segment that we always end with. So all set for that?
Yep, shoot.
Okay. So first question: what's your favorite Indigo route to travel on?
Istanbul for sure. Very closely followed by Myanmar.
Excellent. And I'm sure we're waiting to see travel reopen, or at least both of
I can't
those.
wait to get back there.
Have you traveled since lockdown? You mentioned that you have taken a flight. Where did you go?
Actually, very recently, I was just in Kashmir as of last week. So that was my first leisure travel, so to say, which was very interesting. Yes. So yeah, I flew very, very recently.
All right, Lika, three must-haves in your suitcase for any trip.
So just besides the travel documents, I would look at having my power banks and or my phone chargers, the hand sanitizer, masks, and tissues, which are definitely essential now, and more importantly, an open heart and mind to explore and learn about the place I'm visiting.
A traveler at heart, I can tell. And the last rapid-fire question is: in this COVID world or this post-COVID world, however we want to see it going forward, three quick tips for travelers.
So follow your COVID appropriate behavior, which is SMS, social distance, mask, and sanitize. Get your vaccinations done and keep all your travel docs handy, whether on your mobile or print wherever necessary, so that you can have a contactless and safe travel experience.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Lika. That was our last question. I really appreciate you coming out today, especially coming straight from your holiday. And with that, we bring it curtains on this episode of the Moving People podcast. We will see you all next month. Thank you.